Welcome to the Middle Ground Podcast, a platform where young people in South Africa can objectively engage in complex and pressing matters.
Hi, I'm Dan Luhuengu, this is Justin Downey, and you're watching and listening to the Middle Ground Podcast. Today's topic is the topic of, as South Africans, do we need an alternative when it comes to the political landscape? So, for example, when you vote someone into power, when you vote for a specific party, it's you're voting for someone to represent you in the National Assembly. So, Justin, when we speak of an alternative, what are we speaking about?
Well, we need an alternative to the general voting of ANC, DA, and more recently the EFF, because many people feel that they're not represented in Parliament. Many people feel like they don't have a voice to their vote, and we don't want our votes to lose value in that kind of a sense either. So what many people are looking for is an alternative to the, old school parties that we've had for so many years. Someone new, someone with fresh ideas, and someone that can really represent the masses, like everybody, not just appeal to certain groups to try win votes.
Yes, 100%. And for example, so we have the three main parties which Justin's spoken about, which is the ruling party, first things first. And a lot of people might have stepped away from the ballot box or the voting roll. For example, in the previous and the most recent election, 26 million people registered to vote. On voting day, only 17 million of those people actually showed up, which means approximately 9 million people decided on the day that, it just was not worth it. So what that tells, for example, is especially with the recent scourge of, the track record of the ruling party, is that the ruling party doesn't necessarily represent the majority of South Africans, and all they represent is a small group of people, potentially cadres and comrades, and they only use voters as a tool only on election day, and thereafter they pretty much function for self-interest of those or small group of people. Secondly, we then have the scenario of, the Democratic Alliance, who some might say, they've had a recent scourge of a lot of influential black leaders leaving the party. And, the common denominator, the common fact that's come out of that is the fact that potentially, they merely use black leaders to get the majority vote. Thereafter, they then go on to serve the interests of only a few, potentially.
Yes, that's the thing. So the DA has a built-up reputation of, catering to the richer or more well-off demographic. The DA has built up this connotation of being more like the old National Party. They've kind of always had this chip on their shoulder that they've been trying to break. And I think with introducing young black leaders, they thought maybe, listen, we can break that stigma that's surrounding the party. But I think where they fell flat on that was that they didn't do enough physically for the poorest, for those living in poverty, for those that needed the most help. I feel that maybe they weren't accurately representing those people. And I think that's where the issue came in, that stigma came in of them, having black leaders and using black leaders kind of thing. And when prominent figures like Mmusi Maimane leave the party, it doesn't always look good. With Patricia de Lille, slightly different story. There was a lot of legal issues going around there, and many would say corruption. But I think personally that the DA always has been trying to break that chip instead of actively breaking that chip by going and doing something about it, going and showing that they can really help they can help the masses, they can help the majority, and not just cater to minority interests in that kind of a sense as well.
And we have the fastest growing party in South Africa, which is, in terms of their representation, it's no secret. So when we speak of an alternative, we're speaking about a party which is non-racial, stands for the interest of South Africans as a whole without excluding a group or a particular type of individual. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we need in South Africa when it comes to an alternative. And with the national elections coming up in 2024, the municipal elections in 2021, that's pretty much the group or the representation that the group of South Africans, which might be segmented as 19 million, will be looking for when going to the ballot box. And who that will be, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting power struggle going on between the parties. We haven't yet had an election where we've had three more equally based parties or four more equally based parties. It's always been a bit of a runaway for the ANC. And I think that that's about to change. I think other parties are forming coalitions, other parties are working together to take power from the ANC. And that's going to be very interesting because now we've got an equal footing. once you've got an equal footing and there's let's say a 50-50 split, or it's equally divided power-wise, then when it comes to parliament, when it comes to decision making, everyone's held accountable for their actions. And what South Africans have been desperately seeking is accountability in government.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that the political parties are right to start taking away power from the ANC by working together before they create an equal footing where all the parties will eventually obviously split and start their, going their own direction. But yes, I think the most, crucial element of coming out of what you've said is that the South Africans want to be represented. We want an alternative. We want someone that really stands for what we believe in, and that will help us.
And that's correct. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of The Middle Ground. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As South Africans, young South Africans from all walks of life, we are looking for an alternative. And an alternative which will represent every single person within this country, that will ensure that economic opportunities are created through enabling businesses to function and operate within an economically conducive environment. So who will that alternative be? We'll have to wait and see. But as for now, as South Africans, we are looking for the alternative. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Middle Ground podcast. This podcast is available on Spotify and on YouTube. You can also catch us on Facebook and Instagram. Please do share this with your friends and your family. And we hope to see you on the next episode.